very warm welcome to all of our audiences. I am Sharanya, strategy analyst at Saro, and we are joined by Aruna Vaz.
Thank you, Sharanya, for having me on the podcast.
Moving further on to let's talk about incident experience, maybe managing large scale data breaches. Can you share some insights or any anecdotes from your experience from handling or advising on any major data breach issues? This, I'm looking for something specifically from a red team assessment
Okay,
perspective.
okay, understood. Sure. Incident management is one of my favorite topics, to be very honest, because there's so much to learn from an incident, but there's also so much to do to ensure that an incident doesn't outbreak. But one of the most revealing red team assessments I was involved in was for a company that was modernizing fast, launching digital policy portals using cloud-based CRMs. And integrating fintech tools for portfolio management. So during the red team exercise, our simulated attackers, basically, or our ethical hackers, as you call them, targeted one of the teams by exploiting an employee's phishing campaign. So there's an ongoing phishing campaign going on, but they exploited that. They successfully compromised internal credentials and used those credentials to access a legacy system housing high net worth client data and investment portfolios. What made this serious was that while the front end systems were modern and secure, yeah, the back end systems was actually older infrastructure, which hadn't been fully integrated with the new identity and access management protocols. So now what happens? That becomes a blind spot, right? So that created a blind spot, one that wouldn't have surfaced if we wouldn't have done this red teaming exercise. Yeah. The attackers also discovered overly permissive access rights across departments. What I mean by that means staff who didn't need access to say sensitive financial reports or customer PII still had it by default. In a real world breach, this would have triggered regulatory reporting obligations under various regulators, whether it's UAE or anywhere else. And it would have potentially even eroded our investor trust, yeah, or our customer trust. So what's the outcome? The firm fast-tracked a zero trust architecture rollout, introduced just-in-time access controls, and began using deception technology to flag lateral movement in real time. They also established a board-level cyber risk reporting, dashboard, shifting from reactive posture to proactive resilience. So they said that they'll start reporting more regularly when it comes to these red teaming exercises. What are some of the vulnerabilities that they've spotted and how are they fixing it? In finance and insurance, especially in the Middle East, where regulators like Central Bank of UAE or Saudi AI regulator are increasing scrutiny on cyber risk. So these exercises are no longer optional. They are a mandate, basically. Yeah, they should be a key part of our operational risk management. Red teaming also forces financial institutions to stress test both their systems and their assumptions. So it's not only about defense, it's also about resilience under pressure in a highly regulated environment. So I think that was an example that was very interesting to share. And I remember when we took it to the board, you should have seen everybody's faces because they were like, we're giving you so much money because a lot of money is put in when a new technology comes, right? So you want to change everything, you want to go digital and so on and so forth. But sometimes we forget about our legacy systems. We forget that one system talks to another and talks to the third one. So how do we kind of implement across systems to ensure that there's no blind spot is really important. So I think that was a good lesson for us to learn from that red teaming exercise that we did.
Understood. This is from the perspective of a simulation that you ran.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, from your perspective, what would be an effective response plan like in practice? This would be including law enforcement, regulators, and
Correct.
internal crisis teams.
Yeah. So I think the first and foremost thing for me is to understand that an effective response plan is not a document. Yeah. It's a coordinated, practiced playbook that activates the moment, say, a cyber or an operational risk incident is detected. So, as best practices, and this is what I recommend as a risk manager of wherever I have worked, is that organizations should develop and maintain this crisis scenario playbook with multiple scenarios. And you kind of rehearse these scenarios once a quarter at least as a minimum. Yeah, that would be ideal kind of to do it. Um, Whether it's happening in practice is a different question. Once a crisis hits, basically, the first step is always containment. So isolating affected systems to ensure that it doesn't spread especially in sectors like healthcare, where real-time services are so critical. So containment is key. According to me, next comes internal crisis coordination. As I mentioned earlier, you need to have a collaborative team coming together. So you immediately bring your incident response team together. This will include your IT, it will include your legal, compliance, comms, your leadership team. Everybody in that incident response team has a defined role. Yeah. IT will investigate, legal will assess liability, comms will prepare internal messaging, external messaging, handling media and PR, leadership will make key risk calls, etc. Then comes regulatory dimension. For example, in the Middle East, regulations are tightening. So in under PDPL in UAE, we have to notify the data office of the breach that impacts personal data. Likewise, in Saudi, the reporting timeline is often within 72 hours. And if you don't do so, then obviously there are fines or reputational damage, so on and so forth. Yeah. Another important aspect within our incident response plan is how we deal with law enforcement and what sort of collaboration we have, especially if there's a suspicion of cybercrime or there are insider threats or data exfiltration, for example. In UAE, we have a coordinated Dubai Police Cybercrime Unit. Yeah, so we reach out to them, we bring them onto up to speed in terms of what has happened, so on and so forth. And most of these are on our speed dials, to be very honest. Yeah, the numbers. In KSA, we've got National Cybersecurity Authority, NCA, and the Communication and Information Technology Commission, CITC. These are the agencies that you need to reach out immediately to if there is an insider threat or there's a cybercrime, etc. These agencies are increasingly proactive, and I can't tell you proactive, like they really live by the word proactive, the actual definition. Yeah. So, and they also want organizations who are reaching out to them to share detailed logs, timeline of the whole event, the way it unfolded, evidence, all of this in a structured manner. Yeah. Equally important for us then is stakeholder communication, whether it's your internal stakeholder or whether it's your external stakeholder. Yeah, internal stakeholder would be our employees, but external stakeholder, we may need to notify our partners, our insurers, media, customers, so on and so forth. So it's important to be clear, calm, and have a fact-based update for them. A strong plan will always include pre-approved templates for external comms to avoid any delays. So that's when I was talking about the scenario playbook, right? It needs to have templates that you need to send to the media. You have a template ready. You need to write to the regulator. You have a template ready, so on and so forth. Yeah. And finally, once the dust settles, what we need to do, we need to conduct a post-incident review. What worked, what didn't work, capture those insights, feed them into a continuous improvement plan. Because not only our customers, but even regulators are expecting a clear audit trail of lessons learned, remediation steps, etc. So in short, a great response plan blends speed and structure. So again, I'm talking about agility here. It's not about reacting. It's about showing control, showing accountability, showing coordination across every stakeholder, whether it's an internal stakeholder or an external stakeholder. I have a friend actually from the network. So I do a lot of networking here in the UAE. I have a friend and she works for a financial sector organization. And we were discussing incident response plan. And I was shocked when she said that they basically do a rehearsal. So they've done a ransomware attempt. They had a ransomware attempt, sorry, on their organization. It was quickly contained, that ransomware attempt, because they had rehearsed that entire plan months before, right down to mock regulator briefings, mock media statements, etc. So that level of readiness actually makes all the difference. But as I said earlier, very few organizations reach that level of readiness. It's mainly if it happens, then we will see. This doesn't happen so often. COVID also happened once in a lifetime kind of a scenario. You know what I mean? But when COVID actually took place, a lot of these plans actually fell flat because we A, didn't have a plan, and B, if we had a plan, it was not executionable. So we had to do something else. But having said that, I think a good incident management plan should be a blend of speed and structure. Should also have great accountability, control, and coordination across all stakeholders. I think that is key for the plan.
So basically, preparedness is everything. Rehearse as
Yes,
much as you can. Okay.
true.